Good evening and welcome to Mystery. I'm Vincent Price. Tonight, Malice Domestic draws Sherlock Holmes into the mysterious adventure of the Musgrave ritual. Now, Holmes was a man of habits. For instance, he kept his cigars in his coal scuttle and his shag tobacco in the toe of a Persian slipper, and his unfinished correspondence was stuck into his mantelpiece with the blade of a jackknife. He engaged in indoor pistol practice, never destroyed any documents, and played his violin at all hours. Furthermore, his incredible untidiness, his often explosive scientific experiments, and the atmosphere of violence which always seemed to follow him combined to make him the very worst tenant in all of London. But it was another of his habits, his addiction to cocaine, which could have been his ruination if Watson hadn't patiently and slowly weaned him from it. The doctor's description of Holmes's nervous activity make it quite evident that the great detective's addiction was a very, very serious one. Watson tells us that when Holmes was not involved in the excitement of a new case, he would try to escape through the drug. And that's exactly what happens tonight when an old school chum invites the pair for a weekend in the country. The adventure of the Musgrave ritual. In 1935, the opening night audience at T.S. Eliot's play Murder in the Cathedral gasped when they heard these lines coming from the stage. Whose was it? His who is gone. Who shall have it? He who shall come. What shall be the month? The last from the first. Critics had a field day speculating on Eliot's use of the passage. Had he read the Musgrave ritual years earlier and stored the lines deep in his subconscious? Could the famous poet be unaware of the similarity? Well, someone finally asked Eliot, and he replied, "My use of the Musgrave ritual was deliberate and wholly conscious. Every writer owes something to Holmes." Eliot made several references to Holmes's tales in many of his poems, but it is in his Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats that he demonstrates the sincerest form of flattery. His description of Macavity, the mystery cat, is an out-and-out imitation of Professor Moriarty. Macavity's the mystery cat. He's called the Hidden Paw, for he's the master criminal who can defy the law. He's the bafflement of Scotland Yard, the flying squad's despair, for when they reach the scene of crime, Macavity's not there. Not all writers shared Eliot's enthusiasm for Holmes. For example, playwright George Bernard Shaw, who admired very little, pronounced this simple verdict: Sherlock Holmes was a drug addict without a single amiable trait. Next time, a stolen letter which could upset the entire political balance of Europe draws Holmes into the adventure of the second stain. Until then, for Mystery, I'm Vincent Price. Good night.